Hello, salam, shalom, namaste, sat sri akal, hola, aloha, ciao, and bonjour. I'm so happy and excited to be here today. And guess what? You will be so happy that you're joining me today as well because we have a very special guest, Janet Key. And guess what? She's a money blueprint coach. And I can't wait to have her share more with you about what she does and who she is. And actually, let's start with that, Janet. Please tell us more about who you are and what you do.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I'm so honored to be able to share with you and have this conversation here today around money because it can be a challenging conversation for many people to have. And my wish is to, open up the pathways so that we can have open, honest, respectful conversations. And I am a prosperous woman, soulful money coach helping women they have that desire to grow, expand, and step into alignment with their highest and greatest self. So when it comes to our money blueprint, you're absolutely right on there. It's looking at our money blueprint, our thinking, our thoughts around money, as well as our emotion, as we are intuitively guided towards the vision or the fulfillment of our life's purpose. So I work on our money relationship with women on physical, emotional, and spiritual levels.
Wow.
And I'm excited that I get to do that.
Yes, it is. It is very, very exciting. And my gosh, you just touched upon so many like really, really important things in terms of just the very idea of a money blueprint. You know, the
Mm.
fact that we have a money blueprint and it has all these layers to it. Can you tell me more about the money blueprint and the different layers and how it
Yeah.
all like works together? Why is it important? Why do I need to know about
Yeah.
it?
Yeah. Our money blueprint is really our money story. What
Mm,
did we see, experience? What did our parents model? What were those experiences that we had in relationship to money? And when I grew up, my dad had a mental illness and he was not able to support our family financially. My parents had divorced I was 5 years old at the time. And my mom did the best she could, but she relied on government services and then later in life relied on a man who then she remarried for that financial security and support. Now, being a woman who is a ruler archetype and a desire to achieve, and I wanted my own financial freedom in life, which meant I had to go deeper into my own money stories. And I had rooted beliefs around not being enough, not being good enough. And that showed up in my money relationship. So our blueprint are, here's the emotions, the past experiences, whether they're, negative experiences that are imprinted within us and we're always creating. So where are we creating from, right? The place of the past experiences, and we'll know it because patterns will show up in our lives over and over. And really where we want to create from is here in the present moment, in a place of alignment. So our blueprint, it is important because for those of us that want happiness, healthy relationships, and freedom in life, your blueprint, whether it's your thoughts, your beliefs, if it's not in alignment, you're going to be in that place of struggle, that inner duality that happens within all of us at some point in life, right?
wow. Can you give an example of when your thoughts, beliefs, and other aspects of you, when it comes to your money blueprint, when they're not in alignment? Can an example of that and what that might look like for somebody?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll give you an example of myself. I had done a lot of inner work in my life. I had connected to the truth of who I am, and I was happy. I felt whole in all areas of my life except money.
Mm,
And when I heard the words that money was energy, I was like, as someone who was a yoga teacher, I understood energy. As someone who was a healer or experienced healing, I understood it, but I didn't understand the energy of money. And I went deeper into it. When I looked at my money thoughts, I was never satisfied. I would look at my bank account balance and feel that there was never enough. I worked in a banking role. I had savings, I had a pension. But again, that feeling of never enoughness was always there. I felt anxiety when it left me. And I'm like, wait a minute here. Like, this is my thoughts. And I know the power of my thoughts, right? What we think about is our feelings. Our feelings are our emotions. Our emotions are our energy. So that is an example of, and then it took me even deeper where I identified that core belief. So even though I'd done some work and I knew that I was enough, but going even deeper in the money realm, because I had not looked at it at that time, then I discovered that deeper core belief of not enough, but it was playing out in my world, right? That I was creating from a place of scarcity and fear, that not enoughness, that never being satisfied, right? My drive, my desire was fueled by fear and insecurity and scarcity. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. It actually makes me think back to my experience of like the time in my life when I used to think about my not being enough. Well, I thought about it in many different contexts, honestly, over the course of my life. But when it and there is a certain similarity in your story and my story in the sense that for many years I was really, really focused on healing myself of emotional trauma that I had experienced. And I worked really, really hard to achieve a sense of great inner peace and happiness and joy. And I was like, oh, this is so wonderful. I love myself now. I have a really healthy relationship with myself. I have awesome self-esteem. But then just like you, what happened with me was that I didn't realize it, but I was continuing to have this belief of not being enough at an underlying deeper level. And that for me also, I became conscious of it in the context of my relationship with money because, and with me, what was happening then was I had already launched my business as a happiness coach, trainer, and healer. And then I had this like big dream, this big vision of establishing like a university and where people could come and learn everything there is to learn about healing and how to live with inner peace and happiness. And at first I got really excited by this dream, by this vision, but then I started thinking about what it would take to make it happen. And the first thoughts that came to my mind were, this is going to take millions of dollars, maybe like hundreds of millions of dollars. And I was like, I don't have that money. And oh my gosh, I don't think I'm good enough to make that much money. Will I ever be able to make that much money in my entire lifetime? I don't know. I don't think, and all these doubts started to creep up and this strong sense of I'm not good enough to make this dream come true. And it produced such intense fear in me that I couldn't keep moving forward on making my dream come true. I had to step back from it and be like, okay, forget about this. This is too much. This is too
Yeah.
much. And it was just, yeah, like really scary, but also really disempowering. And it like literally stopped me in my tracks.
Yeah. Yeah. And aren't you glad you dug deeper
Oh,
to remove that? And that's what happens is our fear will stop us. And I always like to say we're in a place of love or fear. And our fear is here to teach us, right? If we just move into those challenges, move into those fears, those deeper, shadow, darker type emotions, rather than avoiding them, and we go deeper into them, and we begin to open up, right? Which is expanding in our own inner frequency to love and openness and trust. And that energy, that space is what leads us towards the vision of
Yeah.
achieving it.
Mm, that's so true. Being not afraid of those shadows, recognizing actually the blessings that those shadows represent. Someone pointed out that, night, our experience of night is actually just the part of the world we are in, being in shadow. But
Mhm.
imagine if we didn't have night time, if it was always daytime, when would we rest? And there's like so much joy and beauty that we experience in the nighttime. And so why are we afraid of the night? Why are we afraid of being in shadows, or when there are shadows around us? We can find the joy and the beauty in them, and they give us
Yeah,
so much opportunity to learn and grow.
absolutely. Absolutely. And in money relationship, what shows up for a lot of women, that shadow side, is when they spend to avoid feelings,
Mm.
or when they avoid looking at their money issues, or they rather someone else manage their money
Oh,
for them.
yeah.
That, when they're in a place of mistrust, or, over giving, or not generous enough, like those are shadow aspects of self
Yeah.
that we need to look at in order, to move through, to come to that light side of self. It's where we get to that place where we shine our brightest. And it's a process, it's a journey. You have to go through it, and every layer of growth in your life, you know you raise in consciousness, you raise in awareness, as you emotional mastery and spiritual mastery, as you practice it and grow, evolve, right?
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. Oh, okay, so just going a little bit further back, you in passing mentioned archetypes and you being a specific archetype. Can you tell me more about that? Because I think a lot of people aren't familiar with that.
Yeah. So sacred money archetypes. Archetypes are a power of patterns that are within us, that make up our story, our motivation, our challenges, our gifts, our talents, our fears. So it makes up who we are, which is, our blueprint, our unique design. And sacred money archetypes helps you to understand your unique money personality. So, what's your specific blueprint? And I work with 8 different money archetypes, and there's the ruler, the celebrity, the connector, the accumulator, the nurturer, the alchemist. And I did not create them. I took training in it from Kendall Summerhoff, but it's absolutely brilliant. Archetypes are here to connect us to the truth of who we are, to identify what our gifts are, what our strengths are, but also the challenges, the shadow side.
Mm.
Working with archetypes helps us to expand our perception, our mindset, but also gets us deeper into, well, what are those beliefs that are limiting, self-sabotaging, and how to navigate through it, right? So it's
Yeah.
like learning the emotional mastery, the energy dance within your own self. And as you keep, the archetypes are here to teach us how to be in alignment with our soul's highest and greatest potential, right? So as we keep moving through the challenges, the fear sides of self, and we begin to take responsibility and accountability for who we are as spiritual human beings. And as we move through the shadow, and we move more into the light, so from the fears of, I'm not enough, or, the overwhelming emotions of guilt and shame that we can often feel as women, as entrepreneurs. As we move through them and we come over into the love side, which is the open, the intuitiveness, the creativeness, already we're changing our own internal frequency, our vibration,
Yeah.
and we begin to connect with that inner abundance that is within us, that is our birthright. So the archetype is brilliant in bringing us into alignment and connecting to that source, that power every day in
Mm.
practice.
That's so cool. Can you give me an example? So you mentioned you were a specific archetype. Can you give me an example of your archetype, like what that, like what are the, like if you are that archetype, what are the dominant characteristics that you have as that archetype? What are the challenges or the shadow side of that archetype?
Yeah. I'll just grab one right here and just kind of look up at, like, just by whim, I'm going to grab the alchemist,
Ooh,
um, which
goodness.
when it comes to the archetypes, we have all of the archetypal patterns, right? But
Oh,
what we want to know is what are our top three, because that's
yeah.
our driving forces, and that's what we can really lean into. Now, knowing the others can really help as well, because knowing yourself, knowing other people, it just opens our openness and our compassion to others, right? We're all on this journey together. So the alchemist is the inner idealist, and they're here to create positive change in the world. Their contract, their sacred money contract, is to transform ideas into financial success. So the alchemist is usually attracted to unconventional or alternative ways of making money. They also care more about social justice or leading a movement than making money. They can have a love-hate relationship with money, which there's that internal duality. Like, we want to look at what parts of money do we hate, right? They
Mhm.
can find themselves relying on others for financial support. Inwardly, they can sometimes feel vulnerable or insecure about their own ability to make income. And this is where they can get caught up in the overthinking, right? Versus the taking the inspired action that's necessary to manifest what
Mm.
it is that you want to create in your life, right? They find it easy to empower others to believe in themselves. And they are talented at making money in unusual ways. They can also believe that there's an unfair balance of wealth in the world. So
Mm.
this is something that, they want to dive a little bit deeper into. And sometimes they seem to not have enough money to support the causes that are important to them. Now, here's the money mantra for this archetype, and it's absolutely brilliant. The more I do well in the world, the more I can help others do good. So you can see where going into those shadow aspects of self, it's like they want to do good in the world. But
Yeah.
if they don't have those financial resources because of that love-hate relationship, or relying on others versus themselves and their own connection to source, then this can create a imbalance within their own system and the wealth that they want to create. So they have a strong will, and learning how to get grounded, within themselves, so that they can move forward and create that positive change they're here to make.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm definitely this is one of my primary learning archetypes for sure, for sure. I actually someone actually introduced to me using a different, they said, "You're a money monk." I was like, "That's true. I am a money monk." But yeah, it's what you were saying. It's definitely one of my primary archetypes. And I remember one of the big challenges that like what you were saying about wanting to just let someone else deal with the money. I was like, yeah, why can't I just coach and train and heal and not have to worry about the money? Let someone else deal with it. That was like a huge like a huge thought and belief and pattern of thinking that I had for a long time. And it did sort of come in my way in terms of feeling disempowered and not being able to and not wanting to do things that could empower me in terms of,
Yeah.
taking more charge of creating more money in my life and stuff. So yeah, thank you for sharing that more
Oh,
specific
you're
example.
welcome. I was a stay-at-home mom for many years. And in 2009, when I went through divorce, I was 35 and starting over, like, going out to look for a job at that time. And
Mhm.
a lot of women that are stay-at-home moms, I didn't have the, ultimate say in the management of money.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do things differently. I read books on wealth. I wanted to change, but I was not that main breadwinner. So I didn't have a say. And that was, in essence, it was disempowering to me, which of course
Yeah.
fueled me, after that divorce of wanting that. And, here's the thing that a woman wants to, create her own wealth and create her own business and move forward in her vision. But when she's been dependent financially on her partner and he has different goals and he has a different blueprint, well, now she has to ask for money or maybe feel like she has to justify. And
Mhm.
there's some shame in that for some women.
Yeah.
And that, again, that's more disempowering, right? And
Mhm.
when we want to be in an empowered place when it comes to our relationship with money, because it's our goals and our vision that we're leading towards, and our own financial freedom is very important for a woman. And to avoid your issues or to avoid managing your own money is to do yourself an injustice.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. Oh gosh. It's so true. I mean, because in an ideal world, like sometimes I still think about how, because money is something that we have invented. I mean, and it like 10,000 years ago, there was no such thing as money as we understand it now. And
Yeah.
part of my ideal self is like, oh, oh, you know, we don't need money. Money is just this like artificial thing we have created, and it's creating so many problems for us in our lives. It's like because we have this invention of money that we created, there is now poverty and not poverty and this injustice. Like you were saying, my archetypes like all into
Yeah.
looking at the imbalance and the injustice and how
Yeah.
money is distributed and stuff. And part of me just, would want to just do away with money entirely, but it's not first of all going to happen. But secondly, it's also again just this energy of blaming and judging, and it keeps you more stuck,
Mm.
and so
Yeah.
to be able to come out of that, to be able to refocus and find a new perspective where we're like, okay, where is the blessing in this? Where can I find the love in this, the joy in this? Um,
Mm.
and focus on that. Um, can you share some more like maybe wisdom around, or maybe give another example of how someone can sort of begin to shift a negative perspective or perception about money into a more positive one? Because
Yeah.
so many of us, we don't know like what's a more healthy way to look at money.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's great. And, here we are and a way to look at money. So
Mhm.
what's your relationship with it and how do you feel about it, right? Notice that. And you mentioned the word blame. So
Yeah.
as soon as we start blaming someone else for our money troubles, in essence, we're actually giving away our power. right? And
Yes.
those feelings of, there's an unfair justice in the world. Well, when you look at yourself, are you using your money in a way that's in alignment with your values, with what is important to you? Now, here's a belief, right? The root of all money is evil, and it's not. It's the individual person. It's how you are using money, and money is a currency, an exchange that we agreed to use in society for our gifts, our products, and our services.
Yeah.
So, we're exchanging our gifts, our talents, our services. But here we are as individuals. We have gifts, we have talents, and we might be holding them back because we feel like we're not good enough, right? So here we are, restricting our own ability to exchange our gifts and talents for services. And it's our own feelings towards it. So how are you using money, right? It's like the more I do well in the world, the more I can help others do good. So it's really being clear about
Yeah.
your relationship with it and how do you want to use it in your life, right?
Right.
There is a Yes, there is a big misuse of money, and a lot of people can learn how to use money differently. And
Yeah.
you mentioned years ago, where money wasn't like, people would exchange goats or gold or something different for it, right? And all of a sudden in society, people started to judge others
Yeah.
by their wealth. You're better than me because you have more sheep
Yeah.
or whatnot. And so now in comes some judgment,
Right.
right? In comes some criticism around people and society, and then people who had less money maybe then felt less than. I'm not good enough, right? So here's this story, and culture really promotes this I am not enoughness, right? We need more
Yeah.
stuff, right? And so people are stressed financially, working jobs that they don't love, that may be soul sucking, or they're overfinanced and they're so trapped that they don't see that way, and that really robs them of their happiness and their joy. And so it's like this focus became on the material, right? I got to have the car, I got to have the toys, I got to have the house, I got to have the so here's the focus on the net worth. And it's important too to have the net worth, but what happened was that separated us from our knowing our own internal worth. We kind of forgot what's our divine, like what's our enlightened self-worth, right? Who we are, what the value of me is. We are our most greatest asset, right? You are your most greatest asset, as am I. And we want to invest in our greatest asset, ourselves, in ways that is loving, nurturing, respectful, honoring, right? So this is where we connect deeper to that love of self. So it's kind of like looking at our relationship with money, and it's absolutely what I love is that it really identifies those unconscious patterns and those beliefs where we give away this power of being connected to our higher selves, of source, to how to take it back, right? To connect to, wait a minute, like I'm valuable. And you start treating yourself like you are available, or that you are available, right? You take care of your body better, your environment better, and when you are a loving, happier, healthier individual, well, look at the energy you're bringing into the world, right? So there's like this internal shift that needs to happen, and see who's more important here, and then serve from that place of love and abundance versus fear and scarcity. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And because people can actually sort of sense your energy. If you, like, I know as a coach, one of the things that um, I know my coaches have told me, and that I've tried to practice also, is like, they're like, look, focus on serving, the money will just come. But when I was in that negative relationship with money, the money wasn't just coming. Like I was serving, and I felt a little bit like that broke artist who's so super passionate about that art that they create and so forth, but they're still broke. And it's like, this is not working. I'm serving with passion, but it's not working. But what I realized was that yes, I was serving with passion at one level, but at another level, I had all this worry about money, and um, you know, uh, I had these fears of, will I be able to make enough money by doing this work? And, I was worried, can that other person afford to pay me what I want them to pay me? Am I asking for too much? Or am I asking for too little? And so because I've had all of this like negative energy around money, it was actually preventing me from even being able to serve in the best ways. And I
Yeah.
think people can like sort of pick up on your, I mean, it reflects a certain amount of fear and a certain lack of confidence. And people can pick up on that and they respond to
Yeah.
that. I mean, when when I gave up on all that worry and stress, and I just was genuinely more happy and just more joyful and more relaxed.
Yeah.
If people were like, literally, it felt like no issue at all asking for even more
Mhm.
money than or whatever the amount was. It didn't matter. It was just like, do I feel good about asking this amount? And if the answer from my heart was yes, it was like, oh, all right, I'm asking for it, no problems at
Yeah.
all. And there were lots of people who were like, yes, Samia, we want to give you that money. So it's just, it sounds like a little bit like magic or something that,
Yeah.
being in more joy and gratitude and happiness, it just makes like all this seeming magic happen.
Yeah, yeah. And that's so beautiful. Where was your mind, right? You weren't in your present moment, the power of now. Your mind was in a place of worry and it was in a place of fear, right? And so many people they're caught up in this place and there's that internal duality. And now we're in the ego place, right? It's like now we're in the fear side of self. And to be grounded in who you are. I am enough, and how I feel. And I can, here's our into the chakras. Our root chakra is our right to be here and our right to have. And so many of us are not grounded in who we are. And that exact thought pattern that you just explained, you're actually not grounded in who you are when you're overwhelmed with thinking of worry and fear, right?
Uh,
Here's the sacros, the feeling, your right to feel and to feel pleasure. And when we feel guilt or we feel worry, that robs us of our energy and our life force. Whereas if we, clear those energies. So, each day when I get up, I practice meditation and I practice clearing. I call in my higher guides that God, I communicate with God so that I'm connecting to that energy on a daily basis.
mm,
And, when we're serving from our ego self, that's about us, right? When we come over into here, our solar plexus is, my will, God's will. And then there's the will of everybody else, right? So am I looking for self-approval or acknowledgement or the opinions of others? Is that affecting me because I'm not living my will? But then there's God's will. So when we kind of get out of our own way and, intuitiveness, our intuition is, source speaking through us. So when we get out of our way and we clear out that limiting emotions and beliefs and negative thinking, we actually open up our own channels to receive.
mm,
And
mm,
that's when we connect to, when you say magic, it's like there's that higher power, right? So when you notice when you create something versus when you get an intuitive hit, you get an intuitive hit and you move forward. Now it happens, right? It happens in your life because it's not really you, but it's what the universe or God wants of you. And here's some other elements in what you were talking about. You were lacking at that time trust and faith, right? So those are such two important moments of, all right, the universe is guiding you towards this vision. You're being called, and, you might question and doubt, and am I going crazy? Which many of us spiritual entrepreneurs feel like that because we are being guided by a higher power, right? So, but it's that exact thought. I remember thinking many times over my years when my dreams had come true in my life, but I was still growing, and I would sit there and I'd question and I'd say, how can I question? Look at what I already look what already came about in my life. And I had to really clear that stuff up. And as I continued to work deeper, it cleared. And then my own level of trust, patience,
Mm.
and faith changed along with that.
Yes. Oh my gosh. This is this is the core that I've come to realize is when anytime I find myself struggling, no matter what the apparent reason is at surface, when I look deeper, it comes down to I need to deepen my faith and my trust in my source, because the fact is that my source, my God is always there, always taking
Yeah.
care of me, always loving me, always creating the very best for me. And if I'm not feeling that, it's because I'm just not seeing it. My perspective needs to shift and change and open up. And when I begin to tap into, when I recognize, oh, it's an issue of I'm not trusting enough right now. I've lost focus on this reality, this knowing that I'm perfectly safe, I'm perfectly provided for. There's so much abundance in the universe, and I'm part of that abundance. And so then it's like, okay, let's refocus on this.
Mhm.
And then it changes everything. It just changes everything.
It does. It does. And as you continue to walk on the journey, here's that duality that's within ourselves of the light and the dark, right? And, there's a separation for a period of time in our lives. But as we keep practicing and as we keep growing, eventually there's this big transformation that happens.
Yeah.
And the ego side, the fear side, loses its control because now you're more in the light, right? And this is where expanding your consciousness, and I often say, I'm teaching about our money relationship, but I'm teaching higher consciousness
Yeah.
because this is what happens, right? And it all depends on what stage of the journey that you are at. And you know we need to be more gentler with ourselves. So in those moments of we're doing really good. And then all of a sudden you're not doing good. And then you start to beat yourself up over it, right? It's like, what's wrong with me? And, that kind of a language will come out to play.
Yeah.
The moment, the seed of the soul moment is when that negative behavior is happening, that you look at yourself and say, I need to apply some compassion,
Mm.
love, and gentleness here. I need to not beat myself up and let it go, right? It's like kind
Yeah.
of like that saying of, if you're going to eat the cake and enjoy it too, right? So as soon as we shift from, we go into that place of, I'm loving life and life is good, and we go then to beating ourselves up. Now we went back into the ego, into the shadow side of self, and now we're in that duality. But if we keep moving through it, that dance of energy, and we keep
Yeah.
working on our stuff as it shows up, and it's layers, right? every
Yes.
every new level of growth
Mm.
will present new level of challenges, new opportunities for us to move through our fears so that we can grow and we can be of service in a way that, how God wants to use our gifts and talents in the world.
Yes, I love that. And I one of my favorite things to do now is like whenever I have an even remotely negative thought or feeling of stress or anything of that nature, as soon as I notice it, sometimes it takes me a while to notice it, but as soon as I notice it, I'm like, thank you. Hey, I thank you for being there, because that's our inner self giving us a signal that, hey, here's an opportunity for growth and learning. And that's so exciting. That's something to be happy about.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool, cool, cool. Okay. Oh my gosh, I got so lost in our conversation. I totally lost track of time, but I loved it so much. Thank you so much for being here. And I'm so sorry. I'm going to have to wrap up for today, but
Yeah.
I hope we can come back and continue to talk about these things. It's so amazing to talk about it with you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And if your listeners have any questions, like send them your way and you can send them my way. And this is a conversation I'm sure that we can have for many hours. And it was a pleasure to be able to share.
Indeed.
I'm sure there's some great wisdom that will be received from your listeners today. So I thank you for having me here today.
Thank you, Janet. And yes, everyone, we are going to make sure to include Janet's links in the show notes. I'll also include my links in case you want to get in touch with me. So please get in touch with us. And until then, we wish you lots and lots of peace and joy. Hey, thanks for tuning into this episode. Hope you're getting value out of it. For your information, this episode has been sponsored by the Happiness 101 program. Are you a change maker, coach, trainer, or healer? Are chains of fear holding you back from making the impact and income you desire? Using a unique combination of positive psychology and the spiritual wisdom of our most effective change makers, the Happiness 101 program helps you break through your limiting beliefs and manifest the abundance and success you desire with fun and ease. Interested? Book a free Happiness 101 exploration call with me, your happiness expert, Samia Bano. Just use my online calendar link in the show notes.